through what? Through aggressive patrol and confidence building patrol.
And to our main conversation today, the recent boat accident in Niger State has once again raised concerns about maritime safety in Nigeria. Despite efforts by federal and state governments, boat accidents continue to occur. The latest incident which reported claimed more than 100 lives is a stark reminder of the risks faced by passengers. The big question is whether or not government is doing enough to rescue the situation and if its interventions are really working. A wooden boat carrying over 300 passengers from Kwara State to Niger capsized at Bajibo, that's in Mokwa local government area, highlighting the urgent need for better safety measures. And just yesterday, 2 unregistered passenger boats reportedly collided in the middle of the lagoon here in Lagos. Confirming the incident, the Lagos State Police Command said the mishap resulted in the capsizing of both boats, each carrying 16 passengers, leaving several people injured and others missing. According to the Lagos State Police Command's Public Relations Officer, 11 passengers were rescued with injuries, and operation is still ongoing to recover the bodies of the remaining passengers who are feared to have drowned. To shed more light on these tragic events and ongoing investigation, I'm joined by Captain Alex Bade Jr., who is Director General of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau. Captain Bade, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me, Femi. How are you doing today?
Is the preliminary report out now on the Niger boat mishap? What more do you know about that incident?
Well, I'm sad to say that I know as much as you do. We found out about this in the media, unfortunately. And that seems to be a recurring theme here, especially with the maritime industry. As you may know or may not know, we're the only agency empowered by the National Assembly, by law, to conduct investigations into all modes of transport. So whenever there's an accident in maritime, rail, road, or air, we're the only ones empowered by law to investigate these incidents and accidents. But unfortunately, we now have a situation in Nigeria where the regulators, i.e. NIWA in this case, the Nigerian Inland Waterways Agency, want to take charge of these tasks which they're ill-equipped for. I could read just from their act, the NIWA Act of 2004. Their main objectives, nowhere does it say they're there to investigate. It says they're there to improve and develop inland waterways for navigation. It says they're there to provide an alternative mode of transportation for the evacuation of economic goods and persons, and to execute the national transport policy's objectives concerning inland waterways. Now, when I took over the NSIB in December, I wrote to NIWA, looking for cooperation between the NSIB and the said agency, but I've gotten no response from them. We have about 32,000 kilometers of inland waterways in Nigeria. So that is a major, major artery for transport in Nigeria, especially in rural areas in the north and, in the Niger Delta and what's so. So I feel that we should work more, but I'm sad to say that we found out in the media days later. And if they're not equipped to, investigate these issues, by the time we get there, there's contamination of evidence, as we saw with the junior pope.
Captain Bade, are you saying that NIWA is more equipped than NSIB to carry out investigations of this nature?
No, that is not what I said. I said they are not equipped to carry out investigations, but they want to do it. They've put themselves forward to do this on their own, sadly, as is the way with a lot of things. There is a lack of interagency.
Exactly the point I was making, Captain Bade. If they're not equipped and your bureau is equipped, what is stopping your bureau from doing the investigation, irrespective of whether or not NIWA is interested in carrying out the same investigation?
We have done that in the past, as you see with the Junior Pope incident. We did in Sokoto. We've done with a few more incidents. But as you may not know, if you take aviation, for example, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority is the regulator. Whenever there's an incident or accident, they inform us. We don't even have to wait for the general public. The moment it gets to them, as the people on ground in that area, they will call the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau and invite us to come and investigate. So we don't have to wait to find out about this in the media 3-4 days later. When you have an agency like NIWA, who's in charge of the inland waterways, and they have offices in over 10 states in Nigeria, and they are the ones directly interfacing with these operators, the proper thing would be for them to cooperate with the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau. But I'm not sure, like I say, what the issue is. I mean, we're all working for the same government and the same Nigerian people who are customers and taxpayers. So
I get you clearly, Captain Badi. Allow me to jump in, and I just want to call your attention to Mr. President's reaction to the Niger boat mishap. According to him, he's called on the National Inland Waterways Authority to investigate the spate of boat accidents in Niger State and across the country. Could it be that Mr. President isn't aware of the agency that is saddled with this responsibility as backed by law?
Most likely, I think it's been misrepresented to the president. He's the president of a nation of over 200 million people. He has a lot on his plate. And those of us who are put in positions to serve and protect the people here owe it as a duty to inform our principals of the proper roles and responsibilities of each agency and not misrepresent these things or misrepresent these tasks. But as you know, it's government and there's a clamor for resources or relevance. And sometimes, as may be in this case, there is miscommunication between agencies, and it saddens me.
I'm just curious to know if the NSIB has reached out to the presidency to make this position clearer, outside this interview.
No, we've reached out to NIWA. We've written them letters. So this is more a passionate plea to the agencies. Again, I don't feel we need to reach out to Mr. President. That's why we have supervising ministers, and that is why we're agencies, we're independent bodies. Like the NSIB is an independent body, and we have reached out to NIWA with no response from them as of February this year. So we're in October, and we've had multiple boats capsize with no cooperation.
Let us get back to the Niger incident. Over 300 persons we heard were on board. About 60 bodies have now been recovered. But the affected community itself is saying that they lost over 100 people. What is the official figure of casualties today?
Well, as of today, we're at 50 as well, as we have not gotten any official communication from NIWA as to how many people drowned there. Like I said, there's so many issues with this. If we're getting information 4 days later or in the media, there's so much lost in translation at that point. And we're both not very large agencies. They are the regulators. They make the rules. They give these boats licenses. They have these jetties. They're the ones in charge of all these areas. We don't do surveillance. They do surveillance. They do surveillance, and they invite the body empowered by law to investigate these things. Or we go there when we can. Like I said, I raised the Junior Pope incidents, the incident in Lorraine last year, the incident in Sokoto. But we can't be everywhere if we're not informed. We're growing our capabilities. As you know, we're a new agency, and that is why I am seeking interagency cooperation. If there's more interagency cooperation, there will be less needless loss of lives. We shouldn't be writing rules
as an investigation
on the backs of dead bodies.
What source do you rely on for your information? Is it NIWA?
Well, for the inland waterways, it should be NIWA. But again, as I say, since I assumed office, we get our source, our information from the media, which is sad. We should not be getting our information from the media. There's a letter at a letter from my agency to NIWA, with which I didn't get a response from, written in February. I have reached out severally to try to communicate with them that we need to work together as an agency. Interagency cooperation is very important to save lives here in Nigeria.
But as it stands now, we have to go on a break. Does NSIB have the capacities to conduct this investigation across the over 2-kilometer waterway across the country?
Not really. We have some capacity. I would be lying if I say to you we have total capacity, which is why you work with the regulators. You must work together. I don't want to get into that because that would be a different conversation of funding. But funding notwithstanding, we should all work together. If the NIWA and the NSIB are working together, it will mitigate some of these things.
Let's take a short break and we'll return with Captain Alex Badu Jr., who's Director General of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau. Stay with us, everyone. We're discussing the Niger boat mishap as well as maritime safety in Nigeria. Just yesterday, another unfortunate accident happened in Lagos where two boats we understand collided, carrying 16 passengers each. Just 11 people were rescued and quite a number of people we understand also died. Let's look at the figures, Mr. Bade. They say we have recorded more than 1,000 deaths in our navigable waterways in less than 3 years. The estimates are put at 300 yearly in 2021, 2022, and 2023. And it's just mind-boggling what the figures are saying. Just 1 week before that incident in Niger, we heard that 3 people reportedly drowned while crossing the same river. The thing here is that many blame government and agencies like yours for presiding over a poorly regulated waterway and the refusal to enforce the use of life jackets and modern boats. I mean, the fact that over 300 people can ferry on a rickety wooden boat at night. How do you respond to these concerns?
Like you said, the key word you used there is regulator. We are safety. We're all about safety. We're not regulators. We don't pass blame onto anybody. We investigate and we find the root causes, and we make our results public. We publish everything on our website. Every investigation
you investigate and recommend. So it means therefore that you are the one pushing out recommendation to regulatory agencies to implement. Is that accurate?
Somewhat. Yes and no. First of all, the regulators already have, but they're backed by a law, again, to regulate, like the road safety. They already tell you to use your seatbelts. Don't use your phone while you drive. Aviation, they regulate. Everybody regulates their space. But when there's an accident, as it's had all over the world, there's an agency empowered to investigate these things. But we don't exist in a vacuum. We must all work together. So if we investigate and we put out, our safety concerns or, recommendations, it's up to these agencies to work with us. I use aviation. Aviation is the second most regulated industry in the world outside the medical industry. And if you look at aviation, it's the safest mode of travel. It's safer than every mode because we're heavily regulated and we work together. We work with all the bodies in aviation, i.e. the Civil Aviation Authority, the Aerospace Management Agencies, and they take these things serious. We have a state safety program in aviation. Now I know, the Maritime, there's a bit of, struggle for dominance there, where you have agencies claiming that they're the only ones empowered by law to investigate. That's another agency. But NIWA, again, they're not empowered by any law to investigate these accidents. And we just need to work together. You go on their website, there is no reports, no investigation, no safety recommendations from any reports that they've undertaken. And as I would say, safety is not a secret, which is why we publish everything. It is not a secret. You see something, you say something. We find something, we publish. So I'm just saying we need to work together.
Dr. Bade, you don't think that the NSIB is under so much pressure to become more noticeable and more visible? I mean, for Mr. President to have mentioned NIWA to investigate, you don't consider that an indictment on how popular your bureau is as we speak?
Well, we'll take that. Yes, there's a little bit of an indictment because everyone associates us with aviation. No one thinks of us as maritime, but we are trying. I've been here. We've spoken about funding. We're a little agency. We're growing. We're backed. There's a law giving us funding for these things, but some agencies have refused to comply with that. I've said this, I've screamed from the rooftops about it, but it's government. Everything is a process. It's slow, but we're moving and we're trying to get to where we need to be. We're training our investigators. We're training more investigators. We need to hire more investigators. We need to hire investigators with the relevant experience in maritime. We can't just start training them, young people. We need people with what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, my tongue got tied here. With experience in maritime, road and all these places, all these things. And as you know, they earn a lot of money. They earn a lot of money on the ships. Pilots earn a lot of money. And on a government wage, it's very hard. A lot of us come and do this for love of country. A lot of the pilots we have working at NSIB do this for the love of country. We have a couple maritime investigators now that are doing it for the love of country. So it's an expensive venture, and we're doing the best we can with the resources. And I must say we're managing them prudently, and we're growing the bureau organically as we should. But we can't, again, exist in a vacuum. We need to work together. All of us in the transport ecosystem need to work together. We're working with the road safety.
You clearly, Captain Bade. Let us quickly touch on, because we have a very short time, let us touch on how much impact you think the investigation NSIB has made, has really had. Earlier in April, a boat carrying 12 actors and crew members crashed in Annam River, resulting in the loss of about 5 passengers. You mentioned at the time in your preliminary report that the boat driver wasn't certified and that the fiber boat was not registered with NIWA. My question is, what really happens beyond these investigations? For instance, in the case of Annam River, what has changed? Where does your recommendations go? And is there a chain of communication? Who takes it up from there? What has been done in this regard?
Yes, the NIWA, the Inland Waterways Agency, are the ones who should take this up. And sadly, if more is being done, we won't have these same instances of these incidents and accidents. We can only do so much as an agency. Again, alone. We need to work together. The sensitization needs to come, two-pronged. It needs to come from our end and both from NIWA's end. We're working on our end to do more of that, and you'll see more of that in the coming months. More sensitization in maritime, and for the roads as well. But again, we make these recommendations. We don't hide them. They're not state secrets. They're published publicly. And the people whose job it is to regulate, it is their job to take these serious and go out there and regulate and enforce these recommendations that we put out there. Again, I must repeat, we're the only agency backed by law empowered to investigate these accidents. And we do that, and we publish. We share. We don't hoard or hide this information. It's not a state secret. So the information is out there. It is out there for the regulators to go take and go do their jobs.
It's about 6 months after your report in April. Can you confirm if any of the recommendations have been implemented by NIWA?
I cannot confirm that because we have not gotten any communication from NIWA. So, like I said, a letter was sent out, and if there's no response...
Yes. The consensus of people, Captain Bade, is that the reason why the maritime space hasn't been, well funded and, safety measures have been implemented is perhaps because more people ply water routes as against the airports where richer Nigerians, ply. Let me get your reaction, for instance, to what some have called the culpability of the federal government in these recurring incidents. We've seen successive governments issue statements condemning boat accidents, yet they continue to happen. Former President Buhari called for stricter safety regulations in 2021. We heard President Tinubu ordering an investigation in June last year after an incident claiming over 100 lives. Just last week, another statement was released, tasking NIWA to take action. This approach isn't working, is it?
Well, I wouldn't blame the president. Again, the president's job is to gather a team, which he has done. It's up to us, the team, to work. The president can't do it all. You can't expect the president to be everywhere. He can direct, but he's dealing with a nation of over 200 million people. There are so many issues. There's a myriad of issues. It is up to us, those empowered with this task and this trust that's been placed in us, to take this task serious. It's not a cakewalk. This job is not here to be glamorous. We're here to work for the people, for the taxpayers, for our citizens here. So it's up to us who have risen or who were given this task and we said or we took an oath to do this job, to do our job properly. So I would not blame the federal government, because who's the federal government? We are the federal government. We are part of the government. But we can't throw blame on the president, because it's not the president's purview. His purview is to pick a team, a capable team, and he has seen that we're capable. So it's up to us to live up to that trust that has been placed in us. You know, the confidence he's put in us. Up to us.
You have also talked about how limited your bureau is in, implementing its task and doing its job. You don't need a presidential intervention. What's the way forward?
I mean, of course, we all do, but I'm looking at this. I've stopped looking at this as a glass half empty. I look at it more glass half full. I think, yes, we do need an intervention, but with the little we have, we're working. We're punching above our weight right now with the little resources we have. We're growing our bureau. I mean, we're training our people. We've brought, as opposed to sending people abroad to go do these trainings, we've brought the people. Just last week, we brought experts from Cranfield University in Buckinghamshire here. And, we have an expert, ex-BEA in France here, training our people locally. And we're trying to do things more locally with the Navy, with the Maritime Academy in Oran as well. So yes, we do need more, but I would, I'd be remiss if I sit here and blame it all on the government. With whatever little resource I have, I'm trying to make good with it. And, I'll keep talking to the government for more resources, but I won't just sit here, look at a glass half empty and say, oh, it's a lack of resources. Yes, there's a lack of resources, but if we work together, we can pull our resources together as well.
It's a good place to leave it. It's a developing story. We're going to continue to have this conversation. Captain Alex Badi Jr. is Director General of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau. Thank you so much for talking to us on the program this evening.
Thank you for having me, Femi.
All right, so critics say presidential reactions to boat accidents have become mere rhetorics, as the incidents have continued unabated with what has been the failure of the regulatory agencies and what they call insensitivity of government at all levels to the lives of the poor that are being wasted. We've talked about the relationship between NSIB, for instance, and the National Inland Waterways Authority. We're going to keep track on this and keep following up, especially how government responds moving forward. That's our program tonight. Thanks for being a part of it. You can watch it again at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.